At 3:42 a.m. Eastern Time, the President of the United States deleted a social media post. By itself, this is unremarkable. Politicians delete posts regularly when they contain errors, create unintended controversy, or simply fail to land as intended. But this deletion is different. This deletion came 90 minutes after the Iranian government released satellite imagery, communications intercepts, and operational photographs documenting what appears to be a catastrophic failure of an American covert operation inside Iranian territory. This deletion came after the president had spent 6 hours claiming complete success of an operation that Iranian evidence now suggests never achieved its objectives and possibly resulted in the capture or death of American personnel. The deleted post declared total victory. It claimed that a precision operation had eliminated a high-value target, that American forces had achieved complete surprise, that the mission was executed flawlessly. The Iranian evidence release tells a completely different story. It shows an operation that was detected before execution, that walked into prepared ambush, that failed to achieve any of its stated objectives, and that potentially lost American lives in the process. The deletion of the post is acknowledgement that the victory narrative has collapsed. And the implications of that collapse extend far beyond one failed operation or one embarrassing social media moment. Here is what the structural analysis reveals, and it should terrify anyone who understands how intelligence operations function and how deterrence relationships are maintained. Iran has just demonstrated that it possesses the intelligence capabilities to detect, monitor, and counter American covert operations on Iranian soil. Iran has demonstrated that it is willing to publicly expose those operations, including releasing evidence that contradicts American government claims. And Iran has demonstrated that it can do all of this in time frame that forces immediate American policy response, including the humiliating deletion of presidential statements claiming success for operation that manifestly failed. The Iranian evidence package is comprehensive and professionally assembled. The satellite imagery shows the operational area before, during, and after the attempted American action. The photographs show Iranian security forces at the location, show captured equipment that appears to be American or Western origin, show what Iranian captions describe as casualty recovery operations. The communications intercepts, if authentic, include operational coordination between American forces that Iranian signals intelligence apparently monitored in real time. The package is designed not just to contradict American claims, but to demonstrate Iranian intelligence superiority and operational readiness. The timing of the Iranian release is strategically calculated. Iran waited until after the president had publicly claimed success. Iran allowed that claim to circulate through American media, allowed American officials to repeat and elaborate on the success narrative, allowed the president to celebrate the operation as demonstration of American resolve and capability. Only after that narrative was fully established did Iran release the evidence showing that the narrative was false. This sequencing maximizes the humiliation factor. It transforms what might have been quiet operational setback into public credibility crisis for American leadership. The content of the deleted post matters because it reveals what the operation was intended to accomplish and what the American government initially believed it had accomplished. The post referenced elimination of a high-value target involved in attacks on American interests. It emphasized the precision and professionalism of American forces. It warned Iran that further attacks would meet similar responses. The post was written as deterrence message, designed to demonstrate American capability and will. The fact that Iran could release evidence forcing deletion of that message within hours represents complete inversion of the intended deterrence signal. Think about what Iran has accomplished with this evidence release. Iran has demonstrated that American covert operations on Iranian territory are not covert. Iran has shown that Iranian intelligence can detect, track, and counter those operations. Iran has proven that American government claims about operational success cannot be taken at face value. Iran has forced the President of the United States to delete a public statement claiming victory. Every one of these demonstrations undermines American credibility, damages American deterrence posture, and emboldens Iranian decision-making regarding future confrontations. The intelligence implications are severe. If Iranian claims are accurate, Iran detected the American operation before or during execution. This means that Iranian counterintelligence has penetrated American operational planning, Iranian signals intelligence can monitor American tactical communications, or Iranian surveillance capabilities can track American force movements in real time. Any of these capabilities represents critical intelligence failure from American perspective. All of them together represent comprehensive intelligence defeat that calls into question the viability of future American covert operations against Iranian targets. The operational implications are potentially catastrophic. The Iranian photographs show what appears to be captured equipment. If that equipment is authentic American or coalition material, it means the operation failed to achieve complete extraction of personnel and materiel. Standard protocol for covert operations requires that nothing be left behind that could compromise sources, methods, or future operations. The presence of captured equipment suggests either that the operation was compromised so completely that extraction was impossible, or that American forces had to withdraw under fire, leaving equipment behind. Either scenario represents operational disaster. The personnel implications are what the American government is desperate to obscure. The Iranian captions reference casualty recovery operations. The images are ambiguous enough that definitive determination is impossible from open source analysis. But the implication is clear. Iran is suggesting that American or coalition personnel were killed or captured during this operation. The American government has not confirmed or denied casualties. The deletion of the victory post, the sudden silence from official channels, the lack of follow-up statements all suggest that the situation regarding personnel is not what the initial post claimed. If American personnel were killed or captured in this operation, the political and strategic consequences are enormous. Killed personnel require explanation to American public and to families. Captured personnel create hostage crisis that Iran can exploit for diplomatic and propaganda purposes. Either outcome transforms what was supposed to be demonstration of American capability into demonstration of American vulnerability. Either outcome provides Iran with leverage in ongoing strategic competition. Either outcome fundamentally undermines the deterrence message that the operation was intended to send. The historical context makes this failure particularly significant. American covert operations have experienced notable failures before. Desert One in 1980, the failed hostage rescue in Iran, became symbol of American impotence during Carter administration. The Bay of Pigs in 1961 humiliated the Kennedy administration and emboldened Soviet calculations during Cuban Missile Crisis. Failed operations are embarrassing, but they are not unusual in covert action history. What makes this failure different is the speed and comprehensiveness with which Iran was able to expose it, document it, and weaponize it against American credibility. Iran is operating with intelligence capabilities that previous American adversaries did not possess. The satellite imagery, the signals intercepts, the operational photographs all suggest that Iran has developed sophisticated intelligence infrastructure specifically designed to detect and counter American operations. This infrastructure likely includes multiple collection platforms, space-based surveillance, signals intelligence stations, human intelligence networks, cyber espionage capabilities. The integration of these platforms into coherent operational picture capable of tracking American covert action represents intelligence achievement that should not be possible for regional power-facing global superpower. But Iran is not typical regional power. Iran has spent 45 years as primary target of American intelligence operations. Iran has been subjected to assassination campaigns, sabotage operations, cyber attacks, and support for internal opposition groups. Iran has responded by building counterintelligence capabilities specifically optimized to detect and defeat American covert action. The evidence release suggests that those capabilities have reached level of sophistication that fundamentally changes the risk-benefit calculation for American covert operations inside Iran. The strategic calculation that led to this operation was likely driven by desire to demonstrate American capability to strike inside Iran without resorting to conventional military operations that could trigger broader war. Covert action represents middle option between diplomatic protest and military strike. It allows for deniability, it minimizes risk of escalation, it demonstrates capability without committing to sustained campaign. These advantages disappear if the operation fails, and if the target country can document that failure publicly. The decision to delete the post represents acknowledgement that the victory narrative cannot be sustained. But the deletion itself creates additional problems. It confirms that the Iranian evidence is authentic, or at least authentic enough that the American government cannot maintain its original claims. It demonstrates that Iranian information operations can force American policy adjustments in real time. It shows that the president is willing to retreat from public statements when confronted with contradictory evidence. Every one of these demonstrations weakens American bargaining position in ongoing confrontation with Iran. The alternative to deletion would have been to maintain the original claims despite Iranian evidence, characterizing that evidence as fabricated propaganda. This approach carries different risks. It requires confidence that American public and international observers will believe American government over Iranian evidence. It requires willingness to sustain potential controversy if additional evidence emerges. It requires betting that American credibility exceeds Iranian credibility in the information space. The fact that deletion was chosen over defiance suggests that the American government does not have confidence in its ability to win that credibility contest. The intelligence failure here operates on multiple levels. First is the operational failure. The mission did not achieve its objectives and potentially resulted in casualties. Second is the security failure. Iran detected and countered the operation, possibly due to penetration of operational planning or communications. Third is the information failure. The American government made claims about operational success that Iranian evidence could immediately contradict. Fourth is the strategic failure. An operation intended to strengthen deterrence has instead demonstrated American vulnerability and Iranian capability. Each of these failures compounds the others. Operational failures can be contained if they remain secret. Security failures can be mitigated if the adversary cannot prove them publicly. Information failures can be corrected if evidence supporting official narrative exists. Strategic failures can be managed if they do not cascade into broader credibility crisis. This operation has failed on all four levels simultaneously, creating crisis that undermines American position across multiple dimensions. The Iranian strategic communication around this evidence release is sophisticated and deliberate. Iran did not immediately claim to have defeated an American operation. Iran waited for the American government to commit to a success narrative. Iran then released evidence systematically dismantling that narrative. Iran allowed the evidence to speak for itself rather than engaging in bombastic rhetoric. This approach maximizes credibility and minimizes the appearance of propaganda. It positions Iran as the truth teller correcting American misinformation rather than as the adversary making self-serving claims. The regional implications extend beyond the bilateral relationship between the United States and Iran. Every American ally and partner in the Middle East is watching this crisis and drawing conclusions about American capability and credibility. If the United States cannot successfully execute covert operations against Iranian targets without being detected, countered, and exposed, what does that mean for American ability to provide security guarantees to regional partners? If American government claims about operational success can be contradicted by Iranian evidence within hours, what does that mean for American credibility more broadly? Israel, in particular, will be analyzing this failure with intense focus. Israeli security strategy depends heavily on covert operations against Iranian nuclear program, Iranian weapons development, and Iranian regional activities. Many of these operations are conducted in coordination with or supported by American intelligence, or if Iranian counterintelligence has reached the sophistication level suggested by this evidence release, Israeli operations are at significantly higher risk. The failure of this American operation may force Israel to recalculate its own operational planning and risk assessment. Gulf Arab states that have quietly cooperated with American operations against Iran will be reassessing the risks of that cooperation. If Iran can detect American operations, Iran can likely detect Gulf state cooperation with those operations. The evidence release demonstrates that Iran is willing to expose operations publicly. Gulf states may conclude that the risks of cooperation now exceed the benefits, particularly if American operations are failing and American credibility is declining. This reassessment could lead to hedging behavior where Gulf states reduce cooperation with American intelligence while increasing diplomatic engagement with Iran. The domestic political implications in the United States are severe. The deleted post will become campaign material for opposition. The operational failure will trigger congressional investigations. The intelligence failures will force reviews of covert action programs and possibly personnel changes in intelligence agencies. The strategic failure will fuel broader debate about American policy toward Iran. All of this occurs in election year, guaranteeing that foreign policy crisis becomes domestic political crisis. The institutional response inside the American government will focus on damage control and lessons learned. Intelligence agencies will conduct damage assessment to determine how Iran detected the operation, what capabilities Iran demonstrated, what vulnerabilities were exposed. Military commands will review operational protocols to identify security failures. The National Security Council will examine decision-making process that approved the operation. All of these reviews will consume enormous bureaucratic energy while producing reports that likely remain classified and therefore cannot restore public credibility. The Iranian government will exploit this failure across multiple domains. Diplomatically, Iran will cite the evidence as proof that American claims cannot be trusted, undermining American negotiating positions. Militarily, Iran will use the failure as recruitment and morale tool, demonstrating that Iranian security forces can defeat American operations. Politically, Iran will present the failure as validation of resistance strategy and proof that American pressure campaign is failing. Informationally, Iran will continue releasing evidence to maximize American embarrassment and demonstrate Iranian capabilities. The question of what actually happened during this operation may never be fully known publicly. Intelligence operations, particularly failed ones, generate conflicting accounts and heavily classified after-action reports. But certain elements can be inferred from the available evidence and the pattern of American and Iranian responses. The operation was intended to strike a high-value target, likely individual or facility involved in Iranian activities that threaten American interests. The operation was detected by Iranian security services before or during execution. Iranian forces responded, possibly engaging American personnel. The operation failed to achieve its primary objective. American forces extracted, but possibly not completely or cleanly. Equipment or personnel may have been left behind. The strategic landscape after this failure is fundamentally altered. American covert action options against Iran are now subject to much higher risk assessment. Operations that might have been approved in the past may now be rejected due to heightened risk of detection and failure. This reduces American flexibility and options for responding to Iranian activities below the threshold of conventional military action. Iran has gained confidence in its intelligence and security capabilities, potentially leading to more aggressive behavior. The deterrence relationship has shifted in Iran's favor. The escalation dynamics are now even more dangerous than before. The United States has demonstrated through failed operation that covert action options are compromised. This leaves conventional military strikes as the primary tool for responding to Iranian provocations. But conventional strikes carry much higher escalation risk than covert operations. They are undeniable acts of war that demand Iranian response. They are more likely to trigger the escalation spiral that both sides claim to want to avoid. The failure of covert action option paradoxically makes broader war more likely by removing the middle option between diplomacy and military strikes. Iran understands this dynamic and may exploit it. If Iran assesses that American covert operations are now compromised and that conventional military strikes are too risky politically, Iran has expanded freedom of action. Iran can conduct activities that would previously have triggered American covert response with reduced fear of consequences. Iran can continue supporting proxy forces, developing weapon systems, and challenging American presence in the region with calculation that American response options are limited and increasingly costly. The information environment has also shifted in Iran's favor. For decades, the general assumption in international affairs was that American intelligence capabilities exceeded those of regional powers, that American government statements were generally reliable, even if sometimes misleading, that American operational capabilities were superior. This failure and the Iranian evidence release challenge all of those assumptions. If Iran can detect American operations, if Iran can contradict American claims with documentary evidence, if Iran can force American government to retreat from public statements, then the information advantage that America has long enjoyed is eroding. The Allied response to this crisis will be carefully calibrated. European allies will express solidarity while privately questioning American competence. They will ask whether American intelligence assessments regarding Iran can be trusted if operational intelligence is this flawed. They will wonder whether American pressure campaign against Iran is based on accurate understanding of Iranian capabilities and intentions. These doubts will complicate Allied cooperation with American Iran policy and strengthen European inclination toward independent diplomatic engagement with Tehran. The Russian and Chinese response will be to amplify Iranian narrative while drawing broader conclusions about American decline. Russian media will characterize the failure as evidence that American military superiority is overstated. Chinese analysts will examine whether American operational failures in Middle East suggest vulnerabilities that could be exploited in Indo-Pacific, or R2R2. Both countries will use the failure as data point in their broader argument that American unipolar moment has ended and that multipolar world order is emerging where American capability to impose its will is increasingly constrained. The timeline going forward is uncertain, but the structural forces point toward continued escalation. The United States cannot simply absorb this failure without response. American credibility requires some demonstration that failures have consequences and that capabilities remain intact. But the response options are all problematic. Another covert operation carries high risk of similar failure. Conventional military strikes trigger escalation spiral. Increased sanctions and diplomatic pressure have not compelled Iranian behavioral change in the past and are unlikely to do so now. The United States is trapped in position where it must respond, but where every response option carries risks that may exceed benefits. Iran has incentive to consolidate the gains from this intelligence victory while avoiding provocations that could trigger American military response. Iran will likely continue activities in the gray zone, supporting proxy forces, developing weapon systems, conducting low-level harassment of American interests. Iran will avoid actions dramatic enough to force American military response while continuing to challenge American position. Iran will exploit the post-deletion and operational failure in information operations while calibrating its actual behavior to avoid crossing thresholds that could trigger war. The scenario that concerns strategic analysts is not the immediate aftermath of this failure, but the medium-term dynamics. Both sides are now operating with updated assessments of each other's capabilities and resolve. Those assessments could lead to miscalculation. The United States may overestimate its ability to restore deterrence through forceful action. Iran may overestimate its ability to challenge American interests without triggering devastating response. Either miscalculation could lead to escalation that spirals beyond either side's control. The historical pattern is that intelligence failures often cluster. One failure exposes vulnerabilities in sources, methods, or procedures that enable additional failures. If Iranian counterintelligence has penetrated American operations to the extent suggested by this evidence release, there are likely additional compromised operations that have not yet been exposed. There may be Iranian agents or technical penetrations in American intelligence infrastructure. There may be communications vulnerabilities that compromise multiple operations. The damage from this one failed operation may extend far beyond the immediate circumstances. This is not the end of the confrontation between the United States and Iran. This is escalation of that confrontation into new domain where the rules are not yet established and where both sides are still learning. The deleted post is artifact of that learning process, moment when assumption met reality and reality won. Whether that lesson leads to wisdom or to hubris, to adjustment or to doubling down, to de-escalation or to broader conflict remains to be determined by decisions that will be made in Washington and Tehran in the days and weeks ahead. But the lesson has been taught. The only question is whether it will be learned.